I don't think they're doing a very good job of protecting the narrative as they've been able to do in previous years. I think the marches and the demonstrations that have happened over the weekend, not just in New York, but all over the country in support of freeing Palestine, has given some hope that maybe this isn't going to end in a total genocide. I hesitate to.
I don't see how it can't. Hope. They have no water. They have how long can the people I don't see how this can end any other way than hundreds of thousands of people dead.
Vaush, depending on regardless, obviously it's going to be a nightmare of epic proportions depending on how this unfolds. But do you see anything positive right now regarding any type of populist left movement, this anti-war sentiment that is so desperately needed right now? Obviously credit to the small faction, if you will, of the federally elected left in Congress that particularly Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib, who have spoken up very loudly that the president has to do something. I don't believe he will, but just the prospect of finally finding your sea legs a little bit and trying to create some type of I hate the word resistance, but that's the one that comes to mind. Do you see any silver linings right now?
I mean, the problem is that okay, so basically no American government official gives a fuck about Jews. The Republican Party openly courts Nazis. They do not give a shit. Democrats are, well, I don't think every Democrat politician is anti-Semitic, but I don't think they care that much. The problem
it's not their priority.
Right. It's not, the problem is that because the shadow of the Holocaust still looms heavily over the political discourse, anti-Semitism is still a pretty serious accusation. The right can say, oh, I'm racist. Well, actually, I'm just anti-woke, whatever. But that doesn't really happen as much with anti-Semitism.
But it's not us.
Right.
How can it be him?
It's a shift in what the acceptable accusation is. And nobody wants to get called anti-Semite. The right can deal with getting called racist, which they do, but they can't deal with that. So everyone has to posture being super pro-Israel, super pro-AIPAC, which is why you see Biden trips over his dick trying to show everyone how pro-Israel he is the nanosecond the bombs start falling. And I know for a fact that quietly right now, Biden is in the Oval Office absolutely seething that this is happening.
At Netanyahu. And furious.
Hates him. Yeah.
I know.
I know for a fact that if Biden could finger snap reality into what he wants, he would stop Israel immediately. But he can't, because that would open him up to accusations of anti-Semitism from the right, and that blah, blah, blah election coming up. So it seems like the Palestinians are fucked. I think the best case scenario here is that basically there's a mass exodus as the U.S. sends soldiers down to secure a corridor open or barters with Egypt. But even then, I don't know if that's going to happen. They opened up water down to the southern part of Gaza, which means that they might forestall. No, I know, right? And Egypt has been horribly non-compliant this whole time. But I don't think there are many paths to hope in this situation. No. I think there are paths with less death. I am heartened by how much the world seems to be consolidating around support for Palestinian people, in spite of the fact that the media is just nonstop throating like Zionist cock. And lying to defend them. So I guess my hope would be that this is a permanent shift in the public conscious, and this does make it more politically viable in the future for American politicians to sort of distance themselves from the worst of Israel's crimes.
Yeah, I would prefer some of them to actually be doing something about it. I've said it on many shows. Every single Jewish member of Congress, shame on you. Shame on you. Not a single Jew in Congress can stand up for this. And I don't mean now, just now. I mean ever. They couldn't even stand up ever on this issue. And it's as a Jewish person, I find it embarrassing.
Vaush, what do you make of, again, we really don't like talking about her, but, Wasserman Schultz is obviously at the head of the line with the likes of Gottheimer and a few others, Jewish, of course, what a shock. Who are basically saber rattling as hard as humanly possible. They do not care how many people die.
Oh, no.
And they are very much in the camp of, I had somebody who I will not say who, but somebody that, let's just say I know very well, that said, kill them all. That's their attitude. Just kill them all.
I don't think there's anything fundamental about being a member of a minority group that makes you have better positions when it comes to other minority groups. The common logic would be that there's some kind of underlying solidarity that people would appeal to, but in reality, this is often not the case. In the ghettos, Latins, Blacks, and Asians fight each other all the time.
Yeah.
The like that solidarity has to be built, but it's a willful project. I think I think that a lot of that dies when you get into politics as well. There's just very little room to criticize Israel in American government because we've made the threat of anti-Semitism such a virulent accusation when it comes to electability. Because people pearl clutch so hard, right? Like even the lightest criticism of Israel gets met with everyone like, how dare you deny them their ability to defend their such and such? And it's all disingenuous. I don't believe any of them actually believe it. I think they just know that that's like a highly weaponizable accusation that you can throw around in Washington. So they use what they have on the table. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's pretty sickening to.
Yeah, well, I call them out as liars.
Right,
because you can't, if you're in Congress, and I've said it before, if you have access to information and you're somebody that is in a position where you like have access to that information, which really is everybody, but not everybody takes the initiative. But anybody in Congress at this point that does not acknowledge that Israel is in violation of international law, is an occupying force, they don't acknowledge the Nakba, like anybody that's in that camp is either being willfully ignorant or they're lying about it. And they just know the truth and they're just lying about it. There is nothing else because the information is too readily available now. So there's no excuse for people that are doing that, especially in Congress. Are you willfully ignorant or lying? See, in my congresswoman's, I believe she's lying.
Oh no, it's, for sure lying. There definitely is like an overlying hysteria with regards to some people's fear of, I don't know, Palestine somehow wiping Israel off the map or whatever. There are people who like genuinely believe that shit, but I don't think they're the politicians. I think those are just like the Facebook moms who just share any bullshit they see online and are freaked out constantly over it.
I have so much family in that category right now. It's so unfortunate. It's like you can't engage in a discussion with people that believe a mythology versus history. So you can't have a reasonable discussion with people when you're not coming at it from the same facts, and they do not acknowledge facts. So it's sort of like getting in a debate with a flat earther or a creationist. It's you're not, there's no point.
Well, we've had some pretty some pretty viral posts that were put out, particularly on Instagram the other day, alluding to what's been going on. And one thing you'll see from those who are Zionist is eventually they'll let the veil slip and they'll basically reveal that this is all of religious indoctrination. This is not, the opinion is not through reason, it's through emotion. And when that happens, you throw out all of the logic of, is this right or wrong? Well, I don't care if it's right or wrong. I care if it's what matters to me. And that's where the big disconnect is. And I think that that's what happens across the board. But this particular issue is very serious because there could be hundreds of thousands of people dead in a very short time.
I don't see how it's not going to happen. Even if they can get out, all you're talking about is setting people up in mass refugee camps that are going to be fraught with disease and like, it's just a matter of how slow the death is for people. It's not, are you getting bombs dropped on you, but it's, can you suitably raise a family in a desert without access to utilities? That's basically what we're talking about. So even in like, what's their best case scenario? I'm like beside myself. This is like, I know I'm like, just
the best case.
We're going to get you for Christmas. We're going to get you one of those Manscaped grooming kits. We're getting you one of those grooming kits, man.
The best case scenario is not politically viable right now. The best case scenario is a shift in political viability. That's like the only that's what's on the table right now, which is nothing, which is suffering. I think a lot of this takes place in the context of the post 9/11 attitude that we have towards Muslim people, which is that a lot of people, not just Zionists, but just Americans and people in the West broadly, think that Muslims are subhuman. In America, it's mostly a project of like post 9/11 fear-mongering. In Europe, Western Europe, it's more recent because of the Syrian refugee crisis, where every government in Europe shifted to the right for fear of migrants who did nothing, who like you had like a year where Germany took in like 170,000 migrants and the crime rate went down that year, you know, like just complete nonsense. But that's how people vote, on nonsense. People love nonsense. So like as a consequence of all of that, right, a lot of people just think that like Palestinians are animals, Hamas are just the more violent of the animals, and all the other countries in the area are just animalistic. You know, you have Lebanon, you have Iran, you have Iraq, and they're just you know, they're like a lesser people. And then you have Israel, a Western ally. And as long as people think that, as long as people believe that, basically anything Israel does is going to be justified in common discourse, because, you know, once you have sort of innately dehumanized the opposition, you have a lot more moral leeway. You're protecting something a lot more precious, you know. And that has to shift. Unfortunately, there just aren't that many Muslims here in America, like proportional to the population,
right?
Which means that we don't have the same like cultural shift. There are Muslims and they're in the cities and such, but there aren't enough of them that it's leading to this like broad shift in people's experiential perspective on Muslims. And for that reason, I think, you know, the attitude hasn't shifted as much as it could otherwise. You know what? Best case scenario, a corridor to Egypt, they flee to America, Palestinians enter all major American cities, and they end up sort of culturally ingratiating themselves and making people more pro-Palestinian just through adjacency. Like how we used to be racist against Italians, but now like every American has a little bit of Italian inside of them because we're a one
so
people.
Basically we need to feed people good Palestinian food, and then entice them over to the culture. Well, I have a friend that's Palestinian, and so I do know that their culture is unbelievably cool and amazing.
I would say,
and there's a lot of layers
we
to
need
it.
kebab. Yes, we need.
Well,
we
I
need
mean,
kebab.
we're just not taught that. Jews, we were really taught that Arabs hated us, and that they wanted to kill us, and that they just like, we were really taught, and we were definitely taught that they were lesser, that they were less civilized, that we were taught that. And I don't mean me directly by my parents. My parents are pretty much as cool as you could possibly get for, you know, a boomer person. So I wasn't like specifically sat down and taught that, but that was the sentiment growing up in the second largest Jewish ghetto in the country in the 70s. And so that's what we were taught.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.